programmers, we all know the future is already here. It's just not very evenly distributed. Today we are going to code a design with captivating tribute to innovation.
Oh shit, here we go again.
We're going to build an Elon Musk Tesla page using just HTML and CSS. It's going to be an engaging project for the aspiring web developers. This tutorial will guide you through creating a visually appealing page using HTML and CSS techniques. So get ready to push the boundaries of your web development skills. First, let's see a preview of how this design is going to work out. I structured the skeleton of the page using HTML, which I had this as the output. I move on to add flesh to it using CSS, then I had this. And for the final result, this is what I'm having. If you want the source code to this project, the link is in the description box or check my bio. If you're ready to level up your skills, hit that subscribe button and let's get started. Now, here in our code editor, we have the basic HTML structure, which we have linked the HTML file to the CSS file, and we have a title of Mox Empire. Within the body tag, we're going to create a header. And within the header, we're going to insert a nav, which is going to be our nav bar. The first thing we're going to do in the nav is to create a div with a class name of logo, which is going to have a text of Code Dev Academy. We're going to highlight the Academy using span. Below the logo, we're going to create an on other list items, which we're going to link it to nothing. And for the first list item, we're going to name it with a text of home. We're going to copy it and we're going to paste it 4 times. For the second list items, we're going to change it to service. For the third list items, we're going to give it a text of about. And for the fourth one, it's going to have a text of help. Now we're going to come below the list items and we're going to create an input. And the input is going to have a type of text, and we're going to insert a placeholder, which is going to have a text of search. Now, in the browser, this is the skeleton structure of our page. Now we need to add flesh to this our page using CSS. So the first thing we're going to do in the CSS, we're going to give it a universal styling, which we're going to make the margin to be 0, and the padding is also going to be 0. For the box sizing, it's going to be border box. And for the font family, we're going to use System UI. For the list style, we're going to make it to be none. Now we're going to target the body of the page. The first thing we do for the body, we're going to give it a background color, which we want it to be having a black color. Now we're going to target the header, which contains our nav bar. We're going to give the header to have a position of fixed. For the top, we're going to make it to be 0, and the left is also going to be 0. Now we're going to give the header to have a weight, which is going to be 100% of the body. And the z-index is going to be 99. Take note, z-index doesn't work without a position in it. Now we're going to target the nav bar. The first thing we do for the nav, we're going to give it a padding of 10 pixels space from top and bottom, and 25 pixels space from the left and right. Then we're going to give it a display of flex. Now our logo, list items, and input are going to be flexed. And align items is going to be center, which we're going to make the justify content also to be spaced between. Now, the first thing we do, we're going to target one of the list items in our navbar, which is the logo. The first thing we want for the logo, we're going to give it a font size, which we want the logo to have a 1.1 rem font size. For the font weight, is going to be bold. Now we're going to give the logo to have a color, which we want the color of the text to be white. In our HTML here, our logo has a span, which we highlighted it to be Academy. Now we're going to target the span in our CSS. All we want the span to have is to have a different color. Now we're going to target our list items, which is the UL first. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to make the list items to be display flexed. And we're going to give a gap between them, which is 1 rem. Now we're going to target each of the list items. The first thing we do, we're going to give it a font size, which is going to be 0.9 rem. Then we're going to give it a font weight, which is going to be bold. And for the color of the text, we're going to make it to have a white color. We want the underline to go, so we're going to give a text decoration of none. We want when you hover, we want the cursor to appear, so we're going to say cursor pointer. We're going to add a transition to it, which is going to be 0.3 seconds. The reason we're doing this is because we want to have an hover effect on it. So we want it to move smoothly. So now below it, we're going to target our list items and give it a hover, which we're going to change the color to have a different color. Now, when you hover, we're having a smooth change. But for the first list items, we want it to have a permanent cyan color.
Are we ready? Can we handle it?
You guys, M2 chip.
This laptop is f***ing crazy.
This thing is fast.
Super fast.
What?
You want silence?
You can't even hear it because it's quiet as a mouse.
This MacBook Pro is supercharged by the M4 family of chips, which means
I'm excited.
This is cool.
Oh, whoa.
Wow.
Are you a creative professional, a developer, or just someone that admires technology? Well, look no further because today I bring to you the MacBook Pro. This sleek powerhouse is not just a laptop. It's a gateway to unparalleled performance, stunning visuals, and an ecosystem designed for productivity. The MacBook Pro has an all-day battery life, so you can be productive wherever you go. It has a magic keyboard with comfortable keys and a responsive trackpad, which make typing a breeze. It has a brand name of Apple, the model name is MacBook Pro, and the screen size is 14.2 inches. For the color, it depends on what you want. The CPU model is Apple M4, and it has a 24GB RAM space with an operating system of Mac OS. If you want more information about this system, the link is in the description box. It will lead you to the Amazon. So actually, this video is not a sponsored video, but an affiliate. Whenever you click and purchase something, I get commission out of it, which is also a way of supporting my channel also. So feel free to check out more information about this system. So with that, now let's head back to our tutorial. Now we head back to the HTML. We're going to go to the first list items and give it a class name of active. When we're done with that, we go back to the CSS. We're going to put comma and we're going to target the active list items here. So now, when you hover, the list items is going to change, but for the first list item, it's going to have a permanent cyan color. Now, back in the CSS, we're going to target now the input. So we're going to say header now, and we're going to say input. The first thing we do for the input is to give it a padding of 10 pixels space from top and bottom and 35 pixels space from the left and right. For the background color, we're going to make it to be transparent. And for the border, we're going to make it to be 1 pixel solid and we're going to give it a cyan color. And the outline of this, our input, we want it to be none. Then we're going to give it a border radius. For the border radius, we're going to use it to be 2 rem. For the color of the text and the inputs, we're going to make it to be white. The font size of this text, we're going to make it to be 0.19 rem. Now in the browser, this is the input we're having. So now we head back to the CSS and reduce the border radius to 1 rem. This is the output we just got right now. And for the padding, we're going to make it to be 8 pixels. Now back to the HTML. We're going to create a section, which we're going to name this section to have a class name of hero. This section is going to contain our content and our image. So first we're going to create a div with a class name of content. Within the content div, we're going to insert a h1. And this h1 is going to have a text inside, which is going to be the feature of robotics. But for the robotics, we're going to highlight it using span. Below the h1, we're going to create a h2, which is also going to have a text. For the text, we're going to write the feature is here. But for the feature, we're going to highlight it using span. Now we're going to create a paragraph and paste a text inside. Now below the paragraph also, we're going to create a button. For the button, we're going to have a link inside, which we're going to link it to nothing, and we're going to have a text inside, which is going to be explore now. Now below the button also, we're going to create a div with the name of social. This social is going to have our icons. Our icons are images. So we select our first image to be TikTok PNG. We're going to copy it and we're going to paste it. We're going to paste it 4 times. We change the second image to be Twitter. We change the third image to be YouTube, and the fourth image is going to be user. Now these images are going to be our icons. So we head to the CSS. The first thing we do in the CSS, we're going to target our hero section. The first thing we need for it, we're going to give it a width, which is going to be 100% of the body. Then for the height, we're going to make it to be 100 VH. We're going to give it to be position of relative, because we're going to adjust some things based on position of absolute. Now we go below it. The next we do, we're going to target the content, which contains our H1, H2, paragraph, and buttons. The first thing we do for it, we're going to give it a maximum width we want it to consume, no matter the screen size, which is 50% of the width of the screen. For the padding, we're going to make it to be 0.7 rem space from the top and bottom, and for the left and right is going to be 2 rem. We're going to make it to be position of absolute, which we're going to make the left to be 5% space from the left. And from the top, we're going to make it to be 24%. We're going to target the H1 and we're going to give it a font size, which we're going to make the font size to be 2 rem. Now we're going to target the font weight, which we want the font weight to be bold. For the color of the text of the H1, we want it to be white. Now in our HTML here, we're going to target our span. So we target the H1 first, then we give it a span. The first thing we want is to change the color of the text, which is going to be having a different color. Now we're going to target the H2, which is below our H1. The first thing we do, we're going to change the font size, which is going to be 1.8 rem. And for the color of the text, we're going to make it to be having a white color. For the font weight of the text, it's going to be bold. Now we're going to target the span in the H2. The first thing we do is to change the color of the span for the H2. Now the next thing we're going to do, we're going to make our correction on the content, which we made it to be 24%, but instead it's supposed to be top, 24% space from the top. In our browser, this is what we're having here. Now what we're going to do, we're going to target our paragraph. So now we head back to the CSS. We target our content and specify on the paragraph. We're going to change the color of the text to be light gray. Then we're going to give the text to have a font size, which is going to be 0.8 rem. We want the font to have a font weight of bold. And for the margin from the top, we're going to make it to be 10 pixels space from the top. And for the letter spacing, we're going to make it to be 1 pixel. And the line height, we're going to make it to be 27 pixels. Now we're going to target the button. The first thing we do for the button, we're going to give it a padding, which we're going to make it to be 0.6 rem space from the top and bottom, and 0.7 rem space from the left and right. We're going to give the button to have a background color, which we're going to make it to be transparent. Now we want the border of the button to be 2 pixels, and we're going to make it to be solid cyan color. We want the outline of the button to be none. And we're going to make the edges of the button to be curved, so we're going to use border radius to be 0.6 rem. We want when you take hover on the button, we want the cursor to appear, so we're going to say cursor pointer. And we want the button to have a box shadow, which we're going to make it to be inside, meaning the box shadow is going to be inside the button, not outside the button. And it's going to be 0, 0, 10 pixel blood, and a cyan color. Now for the margin from the top, meaning from the space from the top, we're going to make it to be 10 pixel space. Now this is what we're having here. Now we're going to target the text in the button. So we head back to the CSS. The first thing we do now, we're going to target the text, which we're going to say content button, and we target the link. First we're going to make the text decoration to be none because we don't want underlines. And we're going to give the text to have a font weight to be bold. Now we want when you hover on the button, we want some changes to happen. But the only thing we want here is to have a box shadow, which is going to be 10 pixel blood and a cyan color. But just before that, we want 2 box shadows. So we right comma and insert another box shadow again, which is 0, 0, 10 pixel and a cyan color. Now when you hover, this is the result we're having. So now back to the CSS. We're going to change this to have a color of white, not font size. Now, this is what we're having. Now we're going to target our social icons. So we head back to the CSS, and we're going to target the container and specify on our social icons div. First, what we're going to do, we're going to give it a margin space from the top, which is going to be 20 pixels. Then what we do now, we're going to target the image itself, which is the icons. First, what we're going to do, we're going to give each icon to have a weight of 25 pixels and a height of also 25 pixels. Then we want the icons to be in a cycle. So we're going to make the border radius to be 50%. And for the color of the icon, we're going to make it to be white. For the border of this icon, we're going to make it to be 1 pixel solid with a cyan color. So in our social div, we're going to make the icons to be display flex, and we're going to give a space between them, which is going to be 1 rem. Now, this is the icons here that we've tiled. Let's make the gap to be 2 rem. Now, we want when you hover on the social icons, we want some changes to happen. So we're going to give a box shadow for these social icons when you hover, which is going to be 0, 0, 10 pixel with a cyan color. Now, when you hover, this is the result we're having. So we're going to give it a cursor of pointer because we want when you hover, the cursor to appear. Now, in our HTML here, we're going to create a div with a class name of a robot. Take note that this div is inside our hero section. We want to insert an image inside this div. Now, to the CSS right now. We're going to target the robot div, which first we're going to position it. So we're going to give it a position of absolute. Then we're going to give it a top. For the top, we're going to make it to be 15% space from the top. And for the right, we're going to make it to be just 4% space from the right. We want it to consume 400 pixel space for the height. For the width, we want it to consume 450 pixel space. Now we're going to target the image. We're going to give it a weight which is going to be 100% of its parent container, which is the robot. For the height, it's also going to be 100% of the parent container. Object fit, we're going to give it to be contain. And we're going to give it a filter drop shadow, meaning this drop shadow is going to come out from the image, not from the parent container holding the image, but the image itself, which we're going to make it to be 0050 pixel blood with a white color. We want the border radius of this image to be curved, which is going to be 10 rem. Now in the browser, this is the result we're having. Our logo is set, our list items are good to go, our button is in a good shape. So with that, we have come to the end of this tutorial. And if you want the source code for this project that we have just worked on, I'll put a link in the description box, or you can check my bio. It will take you to my Patreon. The code is there. The code to our past project is also there, and for the future projects that we're going to work on, I'll also put the code there. So I hope you have gained something out of this video. If you have, please like this video, and if you want to join us in exploring the world of web development, then subscribe to the channel. See you in my next video. Thanks for watching.